Hi, welcome to the Intuitive Encounters YouTube channel. My name is Jamie Roth, and I am an intuitive healer of 23 years. I work with women to peel back the layers of social stigma, religious dogma, and toxic generational patterns in order to empower them to live their most favorite, aligned, and authentic self. In this episode, we're going to discuss shadow work because it's become quite the buzzword, and I wanted to spend some time really diving into what exactly is shadow work, why should we be doing it, and when should we be doing it. So let's dive in. Spirituality invites us to explore the depths of our inner selves, and one powerful tool for such exploration is known as shadow work. At its core, shadow work refers to the process of confronting and integrating the hidden or repressed aspects of our psyche, those elements of our personality that we may prefer to ignore. You know, those icky, sticky parts, the skeletons in our closets, the parts we deem unlovable and are very often filled with shame. These parts can include thoughts, emotions, beliefs, or behaviors that don't align with your conscious self-image and are most often rooted in early life experiences, societal and religious conditioning, and our subconscious beliefs. This can look or sound like judgmental thoughts towards others, despite identifying as having an open mind and being a compassionate person. It can be jealous thoughts towards someone's success while outwardly celebrating them. It can be wishing failure on someone who's hurt you despite seeing yourself as someone who is a forgiving person. It can absolutely include racist, sexist, or prejudiced thoughts that perhaps feel inherited or even reflexive and not reflective of your own chosen values. So you would hear a racist or misogynist thought and probably gasp it down and think to yourself, that's not me. I don't have those thoughts. I don't know who those thoughts come from, yet you thought them. It can be beliefs that you're not enough, although people see you as a very confident, successful person. It can be belief that the world is unsafe, while outwardly you're presenting yourself as someone really optimistic and trusting. It can be in perfectionism, which is rooted in a desire to be validated as enough and okay. But in order to receive that validation, everything you do must be perfect, which is a standard only you are setting for yourself and doesn't actually allow for the messiness of being a human being and making mistakes. Because if you do that, if you make mistakes, then other people may not accept you or validate you. You might also be someone that champions self-acceptance when really deep inside you struggle with it. And of course, multiple things can be true at once, right? Like you can absolutely be a wonderful cheerleader and champion of other people, but really deeply lack in championing yourself, which is why shadow work would be such a great opportunity for you. Some behaviors that we use that could use some shadow work are things like people pleasing. People pleasing is often rooted in trauma, and it is a way to keep yourself safe because as long as you give enough to someone, take care of someone else's needs, hopefully they will like you, validate you, care for you, or maybe stop abusing you. It is a safety mechanism. But on the outside, people pleasing looks like someone who's just extra, overly generous and loving and giving, which can also be true as well as being a very self-sacrificing way to live. Withdrawing emotionally from relationships when you've been hurt is a common behavior that could definitely use some self-reflection. You know, those behaviors such as stonewalling and the silent treatment? Those are behaviors that are about perceiving safety by withdrawing. However, it's also a way of running away from and hiding from difficult confrontations and conversations, and it's a lack of allowing for repair. So perhaps a deep dive into running away from relationships needs to be looked at, except that you're calling it strength and boundaries. And again, multiple things can be true at once. You might be working on strength and boundaries while also running away. So how do you meet in the middle with that? That's shadow work. And yet another example is passive aggressiveness. That's a behavior that is not rooted in truth and authenticity. It is in the shadows of fear of speaking up and being truthful about your thoughts. It becomes speaking half-truths or insults disguised as a joke, a seemingly clever way of sticking it to someone while acting like you haven't done anything wrong. I was just joking. I didn't mean it. That's not what I said. I said this, but knowing full well that it implied something else, something negative. So shadow work involves acknowledging uncomfortable truths about yourself. It's exploring those emotional triggers and patterns and integrating those disowned aspects of your personality with compassionate curiosity. Doing shadow work can liberate you from unconscious patterns that sabotage your joy, self-confidence, your relationships, and even your potential. It can help you become more whole and authentic by integrating all of those parts of yourself. Not just the parts that you like, but the parts that you don't like and find unlovable. It's about loving those parts. It's about accepting them within yourself. It can deepen your spiritual connection through facing your own humanity with compassionate curiosity. Because by doing this, it expands your compassion towards others as well. I find that one of the most healing tools is self-compassion, because once you've given that to yourself, it is much easier to give to other people. Look at it like this. A lot of times our judgment of other people comes from judgment of ourselves and is then a projection onto other people. So if you meet your shadows, love those pieces that you're afraid of, that feel gross, but you decide they are worthy of compassion, then why would you not grant others the same? So it's a beautiful symbiotic cycle. Self-love to other love, self-compassion to compassion to others. Shadow work also encourages us to acknowledge our vulnerabilities and our fears such as death, fear of vulnerability of making mistakes and being judged, fear of being unlovable, and a lack of self-confidence. Those are some of the examples. And I also believe strongly that shadow work takes us out of victim mode in order to reflect on where we gained something within being the victim. When you are a victim, you get to point the finger at other people for their wrongdoing and how they've hurt you. And those things get to remain true and valid. You may very well be a victim of poor parenting, partner abuse, tragedy, loss. But when we do the shadow work, we dig deep to take responsibility for our own parts in toxic relationships. So perhaps you and your partner have gone round and round about certain topics. You can't get to a place of peace about it. Your relationship has become full of strife and is very difficult. And you both get to the point where all you're doing is pointing the finger at each other. Shadow work would guide you away from pointing that finger at them and pointing the finger instead at yourself to ask questions such as, where am I being a martyr in this? Where am I not listening with compassionate curiosity for my partner, and I've only created a barrier of resistance to hear anything that my partner is saying? Where might they actually be correct, but I'm being stubborn and unwilling to hear the truth because I don't want to be wrong, because being wrong feels bad. And perhaps you just stayed in that relationship for many reasons, but one could be for the validation of your own righteousness. Or let's take the example of a friendship where you have become a martyr because it was so easy for you to claim being such a good friend to this person who was so needing of you, and you were so helpful and generous, and they were just a taker, and they never gave back to you. The shadow work piece would ask you, but what did you receive from all that overgiving? Where were you filled up in some way that kept you from creating better boundaries, or perhaps from ending the relationship because it wasn't healthy? Where did you lack the strength of voice and conviction to walk away? That's not someone else's doing. That's a choice you were making. So when we reach into the shadows, we must summon courage to delve into these depths and confront what lies beneath the surface. The outcome of self-confrontation can lead to really profound revelations and insights, allowing us to align more closely with our truest selves. So, how do you know when shadow work is calling you? Well, there's several indications. There's a great time to do shadow work when you are finding yourself very emotionally triggered easily, but don't understand why. When you feel stuck and lost, like you're just repeating painful cycles over and over. So a big one is when older wounds resurface when you're in a major life transition. This is absolutely a calling for shadow work, because as you make this major life transition, your soul is asking you to do it with more authenticity, from a more healed and whole version of yourself. So the shadow work piece is asking you what's holding you back from moving forward more deeply into this life transition in a bigger way, a more healed way. It's a great time to do shadow work if you sense that something within you is being avoided. I just had a client today say to me, I can sense that something is underneath the surface. It's bubbling up and it needs to be excavated, but I don't know what it is, but I do know it's uncomfortable. And of course, shadow work is always relevant when you're actively pursuing spiritual growth. So there are many really good ways to embark on shadow work. I would say the most common would be journaling. You can find prompts online to help you with a certain topic. When you're meeting those icky, sticky parts, just getting it out on paper and allowing yourself to really claim it through writing is a very powerful way to work with the shadows. Breath work is also an excellent way because we hold everything in the cells of our body. And so the breath can allow you to breathe into openness and expansion, allowing release of these shadow pieces. Another good and very bold way to do shadow work is through the mirror work. That's a great way to meet your shadows, because it's not often that we spend time looking into our soul through the mirror. Sure, you might spend time in front of the mirror getting ready, putting on your makeup, putting on your mask, but rarely do we sit in front of a mirror and just stare directly into our eyes, allowing them to be the windows into our souls and allowing ourselves to meet ourselves in that liminal space. You'd be surprised how challenging mirror work is for people. And the first pieces of shadow work that often come up with mirror work are immediately looking at yourself and judging how you look and the wrinkles and the tired eyes and things like that. Shadow work is a really great thing to do through somatic processes such as movement, dance. Breath work is another form of somatic healing work. Again, everything is held in the cells of our body, and so allowing freedom of movement and expression allows for those pieces to come up and to be felt and released. Our body can do amazing things when we move it and allow things to unfold. And of course, being guided by a healer is a really excellent way to do shadow work, especially one that will push you to your edges and not allow you to stay in the sanctity of victimhood or only build you up and cheerlead you. A really excellent healer will help you meet and greet your edges with that compassionate curiosity I keep mentioning, and allow you to feel your pain fully and completely and hold space for you in a sacred container to do that. One that won't override you, stop your process. I recently had a client in a mother wound ceremony who had to deeply meet shadow pieces through pain in her body. It was a very painful experience, and it was even shocking to her. She wasn't expecting that. She was expecting to hear some kind of messaging from her ancestors and her mother lineage, and she did receive that messaging, but it was through actual physical deep pain. And as I observed her, I had to decide whether to go into that process with her, to maybe stop it, to touch her, to maybe pause it, to invade in that space. And a good healer will know when to do that, when someone's gone too far and they need anchoring back into a safer space. And a good healer will know when to let that process completely unfold, which is what I decided to do in that situation. And she did move through it, and there's still much processing required of that and integration of the pain that came forward. What was that messaging? And it was definitely a shadow work piece for herself. She most clearly feels pain in her body. That's how she maneuvers through her experiences. So it was really no surprise that the mother wound came as a deep physical pain in her body. So on that note, it's really important to know that shadow work is not comfortable. It's not clean and pretty and packaged up in a bow. It's messy, it's dark, it's uncomfortable. And that is where your true grit or lack thereof shows up. Can you be in these uncomfortable places and not run away? Not disassociate? Not numb out? Ultimately, shadow work is meant to help you live in greater alignment with your soul, not just the parts you like, but the totality of who you are. If this has stirred something in you and you're feeling curious to go deeper, I've got some beautiful tools and resources waiting for you on my website. There's guided mini courses, a mind, body, spirit oracle deck, and other soul nourishing support, such as one-on-one intuitive healing sessions to guide you in meeting yourself more fully. Just follow your intuition, explore whatever calls to you, and you can find it all at intuitiveencounters.com. Shadow work isn't just a buzzword, it's a sacred return to wholeness. Blessed be.